Riverside.
Hello, and welcome into TheSadFan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that made us sad. And thanks for covering for me for my anniversary, guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we tried, but we definitely missed your knowledge. It was insane to just hear you just free flowing thoughts of everything we got kind of wrong in the last episode. Of which there were many errors. I'm sorry, I called Keller
pulling random games from 12 years ago out of your ass. I'm like, okay.
So I apologize that I came across. No, I really appreciated it, and I was just listening. And I apologize that that's how my brain works. So I'm like, I think he's talking about Kevin Cobb because that was a quarterback on the Eagles that Andy Reid made really great. That kind of sucked. And then you're like, no, it's Alex Smith. And I was like, well, no, he wasn't terrible. He just got benched against the Chicago Bears on a Monday Night Football game when Vernon Davis was like, his ball was just so soft. I remember that press conference.
See, there you go. Remembering a random press conference from 10 years ago.
It was such a funny quote by Vernon Davis, like, oh my God, I felt just so soft. And I was like, man, Vernon Davis just sideswiped Alex Smith for no reason.
Frye always asks me, hey, do you remember that time we were at the mall in Albuquerque 15 years ago and you said this? I was like, no. What? No.
Well, the quick other thing, it sounded, I think you knew what you were talking about, Wes, but I think you accidentally made it sound like Alex Smith broke his leg with the Chiefs, which he didn't break his leg with the Chiefs. He broke his leg with the Commanders. But what's kind of funny, did you guys ever watch that documentary with Alex Smith about his comeback?
Yeah, and he almost died.
Yeah, and he had to go to army doctors that deal with war wounds.
Dang.
It was,
yeah. Did not.
He had sepsis.
I remember the injury, but I did not know this.
Look at pictures. He had bacteria ate half of his leg. It was pretty gnarly.
Yeah. It was bad. And yeah, he went to it was in Andrews Air Force Base, I believe, in Washington. He went and he had the Air Force and Army doctors and surgeons look at it that you typically study war wounds and things like that. That's how severe it was.
Dang.
So on that note, let's just talk about what made us sad this week. I'm going to tell you right now, mine is a little funny. Chelsea's is very serious, and Wes's. Actually, I'm not going to be mean. Wes is echoing the sentiments of a lot of both Bengals and 49ers fans. And then, of course, the media who has to be like, yeah, we agree with you. Please watch our show. I'm not going to do that, but Wes will have your back there. Because Wes agrees with you. Wes did not like the officiating. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but I'm not going to steal his thunder. So let's go to what made me sad, and it's conspiracies by fans that just get worse thanks to social media. Yes, Chelsea was digging into this topic, was sending it to me while I was gone, and I loved it. I was eating it up. I only got to read one of the articles. There was 3 attached. And Jaren Jackson apparently had stats manufactured for him, which ended up being false. Which the Grizzlies came out and said, hey, this is not true. We did not do this. Everything is true to our record or to our knowledge. We have not falsified any documents or any stats, pardon me. Sorry, I'm political stuff, some fading into basketball stuff. But it's not new is what makes me sad. We always are looking for something, some slight against us or he's never been this good before. He's got to be on steroids or they're cheating for him. Sometimes it's not the case. When you actually do find something, fantastic. But the Patriots actually didn't win the Super Bowl after 9/11, just so everybody knows. That was not something that occurred. Saints did not immediately win the Super Bowl after Katrina, which is a common misconception. People are like, it happened right after Katrina. Well, it wasn't immediately after Katrina. It happened later. And they had cleaned up the Superdome after that, but they did spend a year playing not at their stadium. So I believe it was a couple years later, or kind of close to that.
I think it was the next year.
It might have been the next year, yeah, when they could play at home again. And because remember, they couldn't play at home during Katrina. It was like a refuge.
Katrina was early fall, and so I think it was the next season.
The next year they played against Payton Manning in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because I mean the roof was pretty much damaged, and there was nothing. Yeah, it took a long time to restore that.
Yeah, and then Peyton Manning.
Didn't they play in Houston?
Was it Houston or like they were practicing at Tulane, I want to say. They were practicing at the Tulane campus, and they were playing their home games maybe in Houston. It was not there. I know that.
Yeah.
Because again, that's where people were living. Now, and it didn't just require renovation there. They had to renovate the whole thing because it wasn't big enough to house as many people as had to stay there or live there. So they had to fix the restrooms after Katrina. They had to do all kinds of stuff. They're still repairing New Orleans from Katrina, just if people were wondering. If you visit New Orleans, they're still talking about, hey, we're still trying to, because they have to treat all the wood now and stuff like that. But what I'm trying to say is the NFL didn't give the Saints a Super Bowl because of Katrina. That's not what happened. That's a conspiracy theory that a lot of people have. And I suppose it's the one I'm the most susceptible to because I am an avid sports fan. But when Chelsea looks into it and actually goes to the Grizzlies website, actually looks at frame by frame, and she's like, no, it seems legit. It's funny because when you said it seemed legit, Chelsea, you said it with like the tinge of hope that it was real.
Okay, so yes, to be fair, I do love me a good conspiracy theory, especially when it is actually a conspiracy, because then it's like, okay, like this is good, this is great. And the thing is
cheaters.
Exactly. But there was reason, though, to whoever posted this, there was reason to actually be skeptical because there was a statistically significant difference between how Jalen Jackson was being
Jaren
Jackson was being, his stats were at home versus away, and it is statistically significant for the league. It is statistically significant within like the recent history of the league. He is an outlier of the outliers. If you look like at a bell curve, he's at the very tail end of it. So it is something that is very odd.
Yeah.
But it's explainable, which most of these conspiracy theories are. I mean, just think of Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually the truth. And in this case, he just really does play better at home.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And that's some players, though. That's some players. Like we've always said, like why do teams with great benches win NBA Finals? Well, because it's a best of 7 series, and typically good bench players play better at home. Like statistically, they're better at home off the bench. So it makes sense. Yeah, and you're saying it's the far end of he's like basically exception, not the rule, right? So I found it interesting when I was reading it, but then you sent me the other stuff, and I was like, oh, well, sad. Like it's not like this would have been so juicy if it was real, but now it just makes me sad because it's YouTube journalists and Twitter detectives that are digging in and like, you're cheating. I see you're cheating again. How dare you? And there's actually real cheating and real atrocities going on, which is something that made Chelsea sad this week. There's some real stuff out there.
Yeah, there actually is, and this is a little bit of a niche thing, but as a former swimmer, this definitely caught my attention. So the woman who is the head coach of the Cal women's swim team, who also was the first female coach to coach an Olympic team at the 2012 London Olympics, she's been fired and completely disgraced after reports of abuse started filtering up to the media, who actually then released a 482-page report on this woman's complete abuse of power, particularly towards athletes. Apparently, there are some female swimmers at Cal who have either chronic illnesses and need extra support, or have eating disorders, which is a very, very real thing. There is a lot of pressure, especially when you are in the tiniest piece of like fabric that covers only the necessary bits and you're in public all the time. There's a lot of stress and scrutiny on female bodies in sports anyways. And then to just be almost completely nude in your sport, I get it. But yeah, I just am really shocked because over the course of years where we've had all of these scandals about particularly women's sports and the environment that leads to a lot of abuse towards athletes, 90% of the coaching, except for maybe the wife of Bella Caroli for, the women's gymnastics team, it's usually men. and it's usually sexual misconduct or just harassment, some sort of, bullying, things like this. But to see it come from...
Like we just talked about with NWSL a couple weeks ago.
Right, with the women's national team and Sally Yates getting on top of that with her report that came out. It's almost disappointing to see women not upholding and supporting other women who are going through these struggles in sports and not seeing themselves in their athletes and really understanding that what they're doing is damaging to these women who, and swimming is not one of those sports where you get to go and make money from it afterwards. There's not really a professional swimming thing out there, really. I mean, there's some great...
Not unless you make tons of money off of, like,
sponsorships. And you only get that every 4 years, like, because people only care that you're the best swimmer in the world every 4 years.
Unless you're just, like, the best, like, Phelps. That's
it. Yeah, then you can go to meets and win stuff, but it costs money to get to all those meets. Like, people don't think about that. Like, it costs money to get to all of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the because a lot at the very highest levels, it's international that you're going to meets in Australia and you're going to meets in Beijing. You're going, you're getting
there early too to adjust to the time difference and to get your body right as far as that area is concerned. So you got to think about extrapolating out a hotel or an Airbnb. So I'm sure that can cause stress because you're probably with a lot of other Team USA people at these private events. You're probably like, hey, are you going to be at this with your competitor? You're legitimately living with your competitor, like, to save money because these things are so expensive.
You're 6 to a room kind of deal. And the other thing about swimming too that I think some people don't know is that, like, even at the very highest levels, you have to pay. So you have to meet qualification times to get into the event. But with the exception of like Olympic trials and the Olympics, you have to pay for each meet. You have to pay the sponsors and the organizers of the meet to get to even be allowed to swim in it. And these fees are extensive. It is one of the reasons why my brother and I did not grow up very wealthy. I had to turn down a lot of the larger meets because I simply could not afford, in addition to flights and hotels and all of my meals and everything, also hundreds of dollars in entrance fees to just...
That happened to my sister with softball. Because that's why she didn't get to get like recruited by big places and things like that, because she had to we couldn't afford for her to be travel team. There was no way that we would have been able to afford for her to go on the buses and the hotels and travel to different meets and things like that, softball tournaments. It just was not going to be viable.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was still recruited, but I mean, it was... I probably would have been recruited and even seen improvement in times and things like that had I been able to spend the money to commit to the sport. So the fact that, these kids that are in college that are swimming, they've already got the academic pressures, they've got the social pressures, they've got all of that built onto this. And then you have someone who at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning is screaming at you, telling you, it looks like you're too fat or you're too lazy or what's wrong with you. You're, 0.5 of a second off of your normal splits this week. That's nothing any college kid wants to hear. And I'm sad. I'm just sad by it. And I have a feeling that she isn't the only one.
No, I think this is going to happen.
I think this is a sport that's ripe for abuse. And along with many others.
So it's so weird. Like, I guess we need to be accepting of the change in times, things like that. But a lot of stuff I read, some stuff is very real abuse. Like what happened to the National Women's Soccer League. Like you can't just walk in. As a coach, you can't have porn playing on your television when a woman walks in. Like you shouldn't have it ever. Sorry, that sounded funny. Don't aggregate me. You shouldn't have it ever. But especially like, what are you doing? That's clearly a sign of abuse when you have it playing as a woman walks into your office. Like you planned that. But I mean, and I think last week Chelsea said I was going to call her a wuss. I would not have called you a wuss. But is some things, and I think you alluded to it, are just hard coaching. And like it's, oh my God, I'm going to sound old. It just seems like you're not being nice to me. Stop it. Soothe my soul. And if you're not soothing someone's soul, you're abusing them. And it's so hard for me to grasp. Like, why do I have to like pet your head and stroke the back of your neck in a non-weird way and give you a teddy before I'm like, hey, could you swim better? Like, what the hell? What does that mean?
So I completely agree with you. There has definitely been like a cultural shift, right? And we're just a little bit more sensitive these days. But there's a difference between pushing and coaching up people and being tough on them and saying, you can absolutely do better. And then there's a difference that leads into a 482-page report that says, this is above and beyond. This is bullying. This is abusive behavior. This is treating women with eating disorders that are behavior that's directly feeding into their illness, as well as like other swimmers. So I have narcolepsy. It makes it very hard for me to sleep. It makes it maybe hard for me to get up in the morning.
We get your text messages.
5 a.m. Discord messages when I still haven't gone to sleep yet. Yeah, exactly.
After you just sent one at 2 a.m. Why is she still awake?
All right.
I don't know. So, but I'm very, very fortunate reading these accounts of like what happened with these women to have had coaches and people around me, including my team had sports psychologists on it, who were there to help me with, my mind-body balance and trying to get through some of these hurdles. It was tough coaching, tough love. They would get frustrated with me, but it was not abusive. There's better way. We can do better, people.
We can absolutely do better. And sometimes we got to stop seeing it as abuse, because I always saw tough coaching as someone that actually cared about me. Like, they cared enough to be like aggressive and make me, I always say, you cared enough to make me hate you. You made me hate you to prove you wrong, because you actually loved me and saw talent in me enough to push me to a level I didn't know I had. Right? Like,
but
it took you being
there's a line, and it sounds like this line was just jumped way over.
I think everybody has a different line, is what I'm trying to say. Like, and you got to take the time as a coach to get to know your people, for sure, 100%. Like, if I got to bring them in and be like, hey, was that too far for you today? Do you feel like did that lead to your success, or do you feel like that was adversely affected you? Right. And you've got to be a coach there. Like, you've got to take that moment. And if you do, I find that if you take that time after to be like, hey, so we talked, you got a little intense. Was that too much for you? Is that not the way you're going to learn? How can I help you learn? Because you're my main priority. If you take that moment, all of a sudden it's no longer seen as abuse. It's, okay, wow, this person actually cares. Now, if you just leave it in that moment, I can see how someone, even a tough human, that was rude, even a human that is used to that style of coaching might be like, oh, I didn't like that, because they never took the time to reaffirm, hey, this is why we do it like this. There's a gear in you that I see that's different, and I need to find how to reach that gear. And I'm not reaching it with the, here's your teddy bear, calm down, you're doing good. So what's better? What's going to get it out of you that's not that, right? Because you're not responding to me going, hey, get your ass to the other side of the pool when I blow this whistle. You're not responding to that. You're not responding to Teddy, okay? What in between will you respond to? Because it's also a coach's job to get results. That's the whole reason they exist. If they don't get results, they get fired. That's their whole job.
Right. And I'm just going to throw in one caveat, and then I think we can be done with this. A lot of the coaching that happens with swimmers is going to be in very short bursts. It is going to be loud. It is going to be very in your face by necessity. You spend most of your time in practice underwater. You can't see, you can't hear your coach. So you're really in your own zone. So I think a lot of what the complaints are about, and I haven't read into the full details on this, is the out of the pool, out of practice, like behavior. Just berating and humiliating these women. So
you should never take into account someone's body. Even like, there's a better way to do that. Like that's not your job as the coach. That's the job when you need to get them with some, like a dietitian, right? Like, hey, you as the coach, the owner of the program, need to go, hey, okay, I see it. I know you see it. I'm not going to call it out because I don't need to give this person a body disorder, but can you get with this person and maybe can we develop a meal plan for them without me calling them a fat ass? Like, because I'm with you. Or skin and bones. I'm with you. I'm 100% agreeing with you. But what I'm saying is that's not the coach's spot. That's where I'm agreeing with you. I'm like, hey, there's a better way for a coach to handle it, because, like you said, there's sports psychologists and there's dietitians on the team, especially in Oregon. I know there's dietitians because the football team has dietitians because of the Chip Kelly era.
I mean, every every college sport now has dietitians available.
No, let's not say that. There are some really
well. I mean, like all like D1 schools, D2 schools.
Yeah, D1 maybe. I don't even think D2, but most D1 would should.
In the Pac-12, certainly.
Yeah,
certainly.
Well, Oregon I only know has one because Chip Kelly was like a diet prude. Like he was all about the players' diets and how many avocados they were eating. I read about his method, and I actually liked it. I'm a weirdo, Chelsea. I'm sorry. Like I'm a weirdo. Like I was like lots of players were like, I like sushi. Blah blah blah. I'm like, this sounds dope. You've got something like totally laid out what you're supposed to eat and like what it does for your body and like all this stuff. But then again, like I'm not a college kid that's like I would love to have Taco Bell. So I would love to have Taco Bell. I would love to have Taco Bell sponsor the show and send me Taco Bell.
On the inside note, the trainers at Oregon and the nutrition staff were pushing chocolate milk like nobody's business. You got out of practice, chocolate milk. You going into practice, chocolate milk. I'm allergic to milk.
I love me some chalky milk.
Well, chocolate milk's super good for you if you're like exerting all that energy. That sucks, Chelsea. You're like, do you have a lactate chocolate milk?
You have some chocolate soy milk?
Yeah, some chocolate soy, some oat milk. All right, Wes. Well, what made you sad?
I think for me, I mean, I know where you think I'm going to go, but it was the officiating. It was just terribly officiated all around. I feel like there were times when it was just like terrible against the Niners, terrible against the Eagles, terrible against the Bengals, terrible against the Chiefs. And like obviously if you're a fan, you're only going to focus on the ones that like kind of like affected you.
Yeah,
but
like,
I mean,
there was 12 men on a field during an
so many blown calls, and there was one that I really remember. It was a personal foul. It was after the play, and he like spun him down, like threw him down really hard in front of the ref, and he didn't do anything. And then the guy got up and shoved him, and then he called a personal flag on him. And I was like, you were there, you saw it. If you're gonna call a personal foul on him, call it on the late hit as well, because that was like 10 seconds after the whistle. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Sorry. But it was just like that kind of crap just happened like the whole time. And like, I don't know if I can tell you whether or not it benefited one team more than the other. But as a fan of like a team that's like in those games, it's really frustrating just to like see that. And it was like all over. And it's like, and then
I'm a bigger fan of let them play as well. I'm a bigger fan of let the players decide the game.
And then I'll get to it, Chelsea. Third down redo. Like I get what they're saying, but at the same time, you're a referee. Use your freaking whistle and blow the play dead. Don't just run out there and be like, and then let them finish the play. No. Blow your freaking whistle. Blow the play dead.
They did. You couldn't hear it over the stadium noise. I'm just going to interject on that because they played the tape back multiple times. Yeah, sure, absolutely. There could be like a PA noise or something like that, but yeah, they did do it.
Turn your mic on and blow it.
But so I actually have to agree with my brother on this one, and I'm normally not someone who's like, "Oh, the refs were whack this game" or whatever. But I'm sitting there with my husband who's trying to like focus enough and actually start to care about football.
You're like sports is his seventh language.
No, he does speak a few other languages, so he's down there. He's down there. He's sitting there watching this, and he's just like, "Wait, why isn't that a penalty? Or why is this? What is going on here?" Like he was just like, "There's no consistency," and he just eventually just got up and left. He usually only can stand 1 or 2 quarters anyways of a game, unless it's an Oregon game, and I hold him there. I'm just like, it matters.
You need my emotional support system right now.
Which is funny because usually I'm the opposite. I'm like, go away from me. I need my own room to yell and scream at the TV.
Because usually I feel like Anna just makes it worse. Like you're making my anger worse.
She's like,
please leave.
No, it's not. Shut up. Get out of here.
Why are you
end of the world?
No, oh my god, the comment Anna makes all the time. You know they can't hear you. Woo!
Yeah. You get that one point.
It's just a game. It's just a game.
So I have my husband during games that I care about because when I go later and I'm in the kitchen and I'm like angrily chopping something or just like putting like
you're using the cleaver on the vegetables instead of the vegetable knife.
like, what's your deal? And I'm like trying to explain some play in the game, and his eyes glaze over, and he's like, "Yeah, okay." So they're watching the game, and he knows, he sees it. It helps.
Well, there's a lot with the referees in this, and I'm just going to say
there was a lot of ticky-tack calls. There were a lot of like calls that they didn't call that they really should have, and it was obvious.
But you would have been mad if they had called him, is my point, though. You would have, if they had called all the fouls, you would have been like, Jesus Christ, the refs want to, the refs want to be famous. Wow, look at the refs. The refs, it's not about, I forgot I paid money to watch the refs today. Like,
they called a lot of fouls in the AFC Championship.
What I'm saying is, either way, you're going to be upset. Every fan of every team, every game believes the refs and the commentators are against their team. Every single game.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
But the only game that I really had a care in was the 49ers-Eagles, because I despise the 49ers as a Seahawks fan. Other than that, I really didn't care. I was like, Bengals-Chiefs, I want a good game. And I got a good game. With the exception of just like the terrible officiating. And both sides had people were just complaining back and forth.
Yeah.
Like,
both teams hated the officials, except for the Chiefs stopped because they ended up winning. But if you live tweeted, both teams were complaining. Chelsea, what were you going to say?
Yeah. So I actually was going to say during wild card weekend, there was actually, for some reason, I just was like, I was watching the games and I was like, you know what? They're making a lot of the right calls. The expedited review coming down from the boost is like immediately just stop a play, like a snap before it was going to make sure that they could go back and immediately like put the flag in. I felt like it was fair. And then I don't know what happened these last couple of weeks. I feel like all of that progress in like good officiating and good intervention by the league to get these things get everything kind of clarified and sorted before a play was made, so that way you wouldn't have a third down redo situation. Was just over and over again. Like, it just went really well. And I had, some minor complaints about it, but nothing that elevates to the level of a discussion. But yeah, this last weekend was just weird. It was just whack.
No, it was very interesting. And yeah, like Wes agreed with me. Like, it's going to happen no matter what we do. And it's funny because it was so... you get the reminder every year how hyperbolic NFL fans are with, that was the greatest play I've ever seen ever, or this was the worst officiation ever. And we forget, like, in 2009, the Vikings got totally destroyed by the refs, which led to the controversy I was talking about earlier in the show with the, Hurricane Katrina. They gave the Saints the Super Bowl because Brett Favre was on the Vikings that year. And, like, they didn't call a couple roughing the passer calls, and then Brett Favre showed the picture of his body after the game. And he had don't worry, he didn't send a picture of his genitalia to a reporter. It was just the bruises on his ankle, and it was the sorry, we got to bring attention to things that really happened. The bruises on his ribs and stuff from getting roughed. But also, I'm sitting there like, he definitely got rough. But some of those injuries are going to happen regardless. But there was that game, and then how about just most recently? You guys remember what happened to the Saints against the Rams?
Oh, the pass interference?
Yes, the blatant pass interference.
The one that changed the pass interference rule. Did they reverse that?
They changed the pass interference rule. No, that was never called. It was never.
No. I'm saying because they made it so you could challenge pass interference now.
Yeah, well, that was only for 1 year, and then they took it out. It was the year after that happened.
That's what I was saying. I was saying, did they get rid of that?
Yeah, they got rid of it the next year because they said it was taking too much time. But I disagree. I don't think it was taking too much time. You still only got 2 challenges. You didn't get an challenge. So it was up to the coach. Like, they make up so many different rules.
They did that to appease all the fans and like everyone that was complaining. And then once everyone like forgot about it, they were like, okay, we're gonna drop the rule. I
had a transition in mind, but you snagged it from me. I was gonna say, which brings me to my next point. I'm being a bit facetious here, but when I saw Brock Purdy's arm go backwards, which is a common injury. it's actually a common injury for quarterbacks, but because how protective the NFL has been about quarterbacks and how this seriously impacted the game because it happened their first drive of the game. It like literally impacted the entire game. And everybody's like, the Eagles are just too powerful. I was like, the Eagles played against a quarterback without a unilateral ligament. Okay? Like, and a quarterback that's played on 14 teams in 15 years. I mean, good on him. But that change that you can say all you want. And Brock Purdy was the third string quarterback and the last pick overall in the draft. Like, stop it. They still had a great team, okay? It was rough. And I know I said they were the best team in the NFL, and perhaps it will be the Eagles. I didn't give the Eagles enough credit all year long. It's very hard.
You didn't. I kept telling you. Yeah,
you were like, they're pretty good, dude. And I'm like, I just don't know. I know their defense is good, but I kept telling myself, I think it's Jalen Hurts. I just think I don't trust Jalen Hurts yet. Or Sirianni, right? Because that guy's weird. Good coach, apparently. But I'm teasing because I think that now we're going to have to hear about all summer long when we have no content to talk about because the NFL is gone and it's just baseball because the NBA Finals happen in June. NFL is considering changing the rule where if you make contact with the passer's arm while it's in motion, it's roughing the passer, right? Like, can't you just see that as a discussion topic?
We'll never do that.
No.
There'll be riots.
Listen to the words that I'm saying, though. Discussion topic for the whole summer when we have nothing to talk. You don't think that's going to be a topic? I think so. I think people are going to be, should they change the rule?
No, because most people realize that's freaking stupid.
I don't think you realize. I think you're giving people way too much credit. But yes, when I saw that, I thought the 49ers were gonna go to the Super Bowl. I thought that defense was crazy, and it was. The Eagles were great, and I'm going to give them the credit now. We'll have Belushi on next week before the Super Bowl to talk about. Because I don't know if you guys remember, I had him on after week 1, and he predicted in his first interview, he predicted the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. Week 1.
Oh, yeah.
He did it. He said the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl this year. Like, week 1, he said it. And I teased him. I was like, I don't know, man.
Did he put a futures bet?
No, I don't know.
You should have.
But he said it week 1. I mean, he definitely 100% called it. And hats off. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of betting on sports, I just have a couple notes here. The line for this game has been fluctuating daily. There's no consensus yet, really. Like, right now, most books have Philly, but like ESPN's Football Power Index only has the Eagles odds at 50.1% of chance of winning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, this game is all over the place in terms of like how people are feeling. It's pretty split right down the middle. It's as even as Vegas gets.
Oh,
so,
and really quick, that was a late hit on Patrick Mahomes at the end game. You could be mad about it. You could say it was soft. Both of his feet were out of bounds. Like every time I watched, I was like, the second I saw it, I was like, that's the right call. Like I didn't even see the penalty come in. I literally saw the play and I was like, ooh, that was my reaction. Like my initial reaction as somebody that played free safety, I was like, ooh. The second I saw him push him, because I was like, that's a no-no. Like you shouldn't have done that. Like, so you can be mad about it, you can be pissed about it. But to me, I was like, before the flag came in, I was like, that's a no-no. You shouldn't have done that.
Sorry, there was no reason for that. Oh, I was just going to say I actually agree with that one.
Gotcha. So so the line is fluctuating. It seems like both teams are decently healthy at this point in time. What do we think? I think the Eagles got a much better defense, but I can't count out. Man, here I go with the quarterbacks again. It's hard, man, because I was wrong about the Bills. Did you have the Bills
to win the Super Bowl?
49ers.
I was going to just throw in there another fun factoid that I have about this Super Bowl. This is going to be the first time that both quarterbacks are black and competing against each other in a Super Bowl. Just
there's so many headlines going into this one. There's that one. There's the Kelsey brothers. There's Andy Reid against his former team. There's Nick Sirianni getting fired by Andy Reid, which is, I mean, that wasn't really fired. He was basically just replaced because that's what coaches do when they take over a team.
I was going to say, also, this happens all the time.
Yeah. But just another little factoid.
Lots of tidbits. Lots of really hardcore fan bases, too. Chiefs fan base, Eagles fan base. They travel well. They're loud.
And then, of course, the conspiracy. Oh, NFL just wants Andy Reid doing coaching against his former team.
Well, also,
rigged.
This is going to be the lowest rated Super Bowl ever. Coming from Cowboys fans, I'm like sitting here like, okay, just because the Cowboys do a good number, it's because people hate watch them. Nobody likes them. Only you in your house that punches your living room and cries in your chair every year when they lose in the playoffs. Yeah, Cowboys fans, I know you all cry every year. Real tears.
Talking about Skip Bayless?
Yeah, that's right. Throwing his jersey. And there's nothing wrong with a man or a woman crying, but you guys cry every year. And then because you got caught crying, you project. Well, you guys all suck and you hate us. And blah. Shut up. Just you're the reason. We wouldn't mind the team if you would just shut up, Cowboys fans. If you would just stop talking and just accept your fate as the team that's the lifetime losers now. You're no longer America's team. You're lifetime losers, okay? You forgot the days of Quincy Carter because you're recency biased. You're like, Dak! Oh, wait, we didn't win a playoff game. We hate Dak now. You're so emotional, Cowboys fans. Relax. Breathe. You suck. It's fine. You're not that good.
So here's a question that I ponder. Is it that they're the most annoying, or is it just that they have the most bandwagon fans?
I think it's
so.
You
hear more of them because they're like more prevalent on social media.
I think they're the loud minority, is what it is.
I don't feel as if they are the minority, like because there are a lot of Cowboys fans.
But
I don't know why.
Steelers fans. I think there's a lot
Steelers
of Raiders
have
fans.
A huge fan base too. A lot of bandwagon fans too.
You were impressed by the Seahawks fans in Germany. You said there's a lot of Seahawks fans in Germany.
Yeah, that's because they're awesome.
There it is. The fan comes out. There was a long time, like, by the way, because of like NWA and Los Angeles Raiders and Oakland Raiders, the Raiders were the most recognizable logo for a lot of my younger life growing up. And it was before, obviously, social media and all this stuff took hold of the world. The internet took hold of the world. But the Raiders, because of NWA, because a lot of rappers repped the Raiders, and because, like, Santana was a Raiders fan, Hulk Hogan was a Raiders fan, the Raiders were, like, the most recognizable logo of any team other than, like, I think it was the Yankees, the Lakers, and the Raiders for a very long time. And there was a weird period in the 90s where it's like the Cowboys peaked at the time when we started to get internet, we started to get like the World Wide Web type stuff, and then all of a sudden social media. And I don't know, man. I think a lot of teams have a lot of fans. I just think they're just the loudest, and I think that's why we hate them. They're annoying. Outside of, hey, you know what? I still hate that kid a couple years ago that cried when the Patriots didn't make the playoffs. I hate you, kid. I hope you listen.
I think a lot of it is their nickname, America's Team.
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff. Just annoys everybody else.
Whenever somebody yells that out, I get a migraine, like immediate migraine. Like America's Team. Like, oh my god, we have 32, idiot. It's only a sport played here. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
Doesn't have fans though. The
Who's
Texans.
That? Yeah,
the Texans
that's very true.
Like, I think I've lived here now a couple of years. I think I've seen like 3 bumper stickers. No flags hanging out the cars on game days.
See Oilers stuff, right? You still see Oilers stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's weird. They still rep the Oilers.
It's such a huge market for like millennial nostalgia and all that jazz. They love them. Their Oilers stuff. They're so mad that the Titans own the Oilers like IP and everything like that.
They're all Titans fans.
Now, they will never get it back in Houston ever, which is really sad, kind of, because the team needs an overhaul. And
well, they had cool colors, they had cool helmets, they had a cool logo and the big oil tower. Like,
and Texans, that's a cool name. Texans. We're from Texas, the Texans.
Well, that name,
the Seattle Washingtonians. Let's go.
Really quick, guys, that name actually goes all the way back to, it predates the NFL. There was actually a team in Texas called the Texans.
Yeah.
So that name actually predates the NFL. So they were trying to draw on even older history than there's Wes's face where he's glazed over.
Swing and a miss.
Doesn't care. Swing and a miss. Chelsea, do you think their new head coach, D'Amico Ryans, is going to help that at all?
So I think that's actually it's a really interesting pickup because there was like a brief moment in time, where they weren't just the gutter team that they are now, and he obviously had a ton of success.
Team. My brain just processed what you said. That was a nice shot. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. The gutter team.
So, D'Amico Ryans, led the Niners to the number one defense in the entire league. Just every major stat that counts. And, good for him to go out and get his bag, get that head coaching money. But, again, like I said, as someone who has to casually be assaulted by Texans news, and I still don't feel like it's going to. I think this is a Band-Aid that might help some things, but I still don't see the Texans going anywhere. But I hope he has some successes. I hope he uses this as a springboard onto greener pastures than Texans.
Well, you know what? They do have a good young defense, and I'm going to give the Texans my stamp of approval, even though their owner's racist. Because I'm going, and I said it outright. I don't care. He's racist. But he did the right thing in suspending Deshaun Watson.
You can have it on the billboard behind you.
I know.
Or on the whiteboard behind you.
Deshaun Jackson is a good person. Deshaun Watson is a terrible person. And you know what? They got rid of him. They traded him away. They didn't let him play. And you know what? Hats off to them. I hope just because of that move, they do well. I do. They got a good defense. He's a good defensive coordinator in a terrible piss poor division that's going to be run by the Jaguars for the next 5 years. So we'll see.
Sean Payton, Saints. Not Saints, Broncos.
It's okay. I did the Deshaun Jackson thing. You're allowed.
Oh, man. They got rid of a 20 of their first pick for this year's draft,
for this
second
year,
round pick, second round pick for next year, and it's like you guys are leveraging all of your current talent growth for the long term. But the thing is, Russell Wilson's not going to get any better.
I don't think so either. Russell Wilson's not Drew Brees.
What are you going to do without getting Russell Wilson some backup and supporting cast this year?
What if they trade him?
You guys already got fleeced on the Russell Wilson trade. And
what if they trade him? Wes, what if they trade him?
For what? A 5th round pick?
I don't know.
This is something that I was trying to posture out there a few weeks ago, and you're saying it's just not going to happen because they signed him for this big contract, and then it's just dead weight. It's tied around their necks.
I don't see it happening, is the truth. But then I look around and I see desperate teams with other bad contracts, and the Packers released today.
I'm ready.
I'm getting there. the Packers released today. Today for you, yesterday for me, that they want to part from Aaron Rodgers, or they're interested in parting from Aaron Rodgers, who has another terrible contrast. And what if they just did a straight up swap, Russell Wilson for Aaron Rodgers? I would hate that because it goes right into the same division as the Raiders, which this division is so stacked with people already. But Aaron Rodgers fits Sean Payton more than Russell Wilson's play style does. Their two style of play. Because remember, he did it with Drew Brees. He's more of a, hey, this is where I want you to go to the ball. Here's where the play is. Here's options 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need you to be smart. I need you to read the defense. Everything that Russell Wilson, I'm not saying Russell Wilson's not smart. Everything that Russell Wilson's game is not is what Aaron Rodgers' game is. And how cute and remember, those contracts actually do flip. They flip pretty well. And how funny would it be? Because you guys know this as a Seahawks fan. That rivalry between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson in the playoffs for a couple years in a row. When the next season Aaron Rodgers comes out, he goes, because Russell said, all the power to God, and Aaron Rodgers goes, I guess God was a Packers fan today. So I'm just like, man, how cool of a storyline would that be if they just swap? They just swap players. And there goes Russell Wilson right back into the snow and the rainy weather after he just moved down to Denver.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is
Denver
from
has
Gusto,
snow,
so I mean, it's not like the most insane thing. He would have been all through it in college. So
Yeah,
and those are the only contracts that line up. But yeah, so you beat me to it, West. But we're a Sean Payton. I don't know. I would have never done that trade. I don't think that a first round pick is going to yield you. I don't think he's going to win a Super Bowl, and I think that's what you're hoping for when you make a trade like this. Like
not if you're already a terrible team who doesn't have like a good first round pick or like
Wes, I don't think the Raiders are going to go. I'm not hopeful, as you know, for the Raiders under Josh McDaniels, but they do play spoiler rather well. They're the worst team in the division. I'm just being honest. Oh, Raiders, you're not a real Raiders. Shut up. Just admit it. We're just the worst team in the division, and we got to understand.
The Broncos are. The Broncos are.
Talent-wise, though, I don't know. I think the Broncos have a lot of talent that just went to waste. But you're probably right. I mean, you know what, Wes? Thank you. I appreciate that. You're probably right. But you got the Chiefs. The Chargers, I hate it, but they're good.
And they got Kellen Moore.
And Justin Herbert's not going to be... Oh, they signed him?
Yeah, they signed Kellen Moore.
Why didn't you tell me that in production?
I did. I thought I told you.
No.
He even said something about it.
He was unemployed for all of 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes after he was fired from the Cowboys, he signed the Chargers.
I've been saying this forever. I wanted him to be like the Sean McVay of the Raiders. I did not want Josh McDaniel. I said that forever. I was like, I would love it if they went out and got someone like a Kellen Moore or homeboy off of the Chiefs, Eric Bieniemy, right? One of those two guys. Like I wanted either Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs. Well, go ahead, Chelsea.
Oh no, continue.
Or Kellen Moore. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, no, I was saying that so yes, he was fired by the Cowboys, but I mean, why? Why did the Cowboys fire him? He was
they had to do something.
Right there.
People were
Mike McCarthy is an ego monster and he sucks. Mike McCarthy sucks. Yes. Cowboys suck. I'm going to say it again. The fans suck. The coach sucked. The owner sucked. Okay, sorry, Chelsea. Go ahead.
But when I said I was really surprised that he went for another offensive coordinator role and not for the HC job, my brother was like, "Oh, well, who would promote someone to head coach after you got fired?" And I was like, "Someone I don't know, the Raiders, someone who actually does need a good coach, and they're." Desperate times call for desperate measures. I think that he could have potentially secured a head coaching role, especially in this season when we're going to see more of this carousel go around and round.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to coach any of those teams, though, to be honest.
Well, maybe that's true, but yeah. He
did
sign as the OC for the Chargers.
And he's going to be great there. I would have rather seen him go to the Jets, but I think the Jets already signed Nathaniel Hackett, so because Hackett did so well. Anyway. So free agency. Do you guys want? I'm going to ask this quick, and I just want a quick answer because we're running out short on time. Do you guys want Geno Smith, who ESPN currently has ranked as the 5th best free agent available, or are you interested in what's out there in the market?
I go Geno.
Geno? You guys got a pretty decent pick, right? Because of the Broncos.
Yeah.
Still Geno.
Yeah, but I also
Geno. Support crew. Get him the support cast.
Chelsea?
Yeah, because I always think it's going to take another year or two to coach up most rookies, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some odd exceptions where they can walk in day one and they're fantastic, but I think that I would try to at least see him sign to another a shorter contract.
Geno's earned himself a second year.
2 year?
He's earned himself a second year, for next year.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to give him a 1-year contract, but a 3-year contract.
I think if that defense was a little bit better, because that wasn't your typical defense. I think Pete Carroll did a great job making it work.
It's garbage.
Well, I thought Pete Carroll did a good job making it work with bad pieces. They didn't have a lot of really good pieces. Quandry's really old at this point. Quandry Diggs, he's really old at this point. Jamal Adams just can't stay healthy. I think he's got 1 more year on his contract, 2 more years on his contract. So they might either waive him. They might either waive him or move on. He just can't stay healthy, and I hate to say that about a guy in the NFL. But when you can't – we're going to see it with Tua next year, I think, too, because the Dolphins have already turned down Tom Brady. So we'll see. Really quick, the Pro Bowl's a joke, right? Tyler Huntley, 2 touchdowns, like 7 games. Yeah, okay.
I don't think it's even 7. And the fact that we've given up on the actual Pro Bowl game, and it's just flag football, and it's the Manning brothers. Why do the Manning brothers have a monopoly on NFL activities?
Because they're goofy and people like them. They talk like this, Eli. What'd you think? I called 7 timeouts. Like, you know.
I'm over
shucks.
it.
I'm just a Manning brother. I'm just living my life to the best. I live in this weird little house.
People like them.
Yeah, they're relatable.
Oh, no, they're not. I don't really. They're multi-millionaires. I don't relate to them whatsoever. And
Chelsea, I think you're just ahead of the pack. Because remember, this year, everybody started hating Tony Romo. In the playoffs this year, everybody started hating Tony Romo. So you're just ahead of the pack. It was crazy.
And I am so excited to be leaving Texas right as Archie Manning really gets started in Texas. I'm going to be out. Gone.
Unfortunately, we're running short on time. So really quickly, 89 points away for LeBron James. So he should be breaking Kareem's record in the next 3 games, it looks like. That's wild. Yeah, exactly, Wes. Please try. Like, he is not my favorite player ever. But you got to appreciate greatness when you're in the moment and not eulogize it when it's dead. So understand we are living in a moment where he's probably the best player ever, and that hurts a lot of Jordanites. I get that. That hurts a lot of Kobeyites. I get that. But he's probably the best player ever. Yeah. There's not going to be – I don't think this record's ever going to be broken. I might be wrong with the way the NFL or NBA, went straight to offense, but that's a crazy record. The owner of Chelsea is a former baseball minority owner of the Dodgers, and it appears, as I'm going just over time, but as it appears that he has brought his MLB rules into professional soccer, into the Premier League, in which the baseball owners would sign players to these really long contracts and extrapolating out their talent over a couple years, trying to project it, right, to how good they're going to be. So he signed a lot. If you look at all of his signings, which, like you said, Chelsea, he spent over $500 million, which is more than Bundesliga and Serie A spent altogether. The whole league didn't spend that much money, okay? And I know our crowd should be familiar with Bundesliga because you guys talked about it last week. More than all of Bundesliga, more than all of Serie A spent, $500 million. But a lot of people think that FIFA is going to catch on to this, or that he's just ahead of the curve, and that FIFA is going to try to change the rules because he signed all these players to like 8-year contracts. So what they think is he's ahead of the game, and right now everybody's angry, but he's doing it so he's got all these really talented players as they hit their peak, and perhaps teams will overpay for them in the future, or he will just have an extremely, extremely talented young team as they progress throughout their careers, right? So he basically bought his farm system. Interesting strategy, right? To take a American strategy and just piss everybody off in Europe, but that sounds a lot like us. But we will see what happens, because I get it. And as somebody that would love to see my team find the loopholes in the rules just to be great, so I could just see a championship in my life, like you guys got to, I think that would be phenomenal. So welcome to American sports and American money, Chelsea. This is how we do it. We find loopholes in rules, and we make ourselves as good as possible, as quickly as possible.
New rule, we have to say Chelsea FC every time.
Yeah.
Chelsea FC.
Please do. Because I was like, what do I got to do this? But
I don't have $500 million.
Yeah.
I don't have an owner.
No, but America is really, really, really good at exporting both loopholes and capitalism. We're fantastic at it. We're the new British Empire that way.
So my hope is that everyone exports this podcast to all of their friends by sharing it all around the world. Please, we're still growing, which is great. I don't ever want to stop growing. That's how we're going to get to where we want to be. And if you want to help us grow, you can reach us at TheSadFan, all one word, on YouTube, capital T, capital S, capital F. And you could, the SadFan Podcast Network, but if you just type in TheSadFan, you will find us. You can reach me at TheSadFan12, and you can reach the show at TheSadFancast. Leave us some comments. in the videos, and I will make sure these two get back to you. So for Chelsea, for Wes, we will see you all next week.
Bye.